"We are not spending a single dime on that circus," my daughter-in-law Faith said, canceling my 70th birthday party. My son Robert added, "You are way too old for that, Mom." I just replied, "No problem." Weeks later, my daughter-in-law wouldn't stop calling me. I smiled and sent her a text message. "The circus is closed, and I have no intention of being your clown again." But let me tell you how I got to that message, because nobody is born with the courage to set boundaries. You learn it after you have been broken enough. It all started on a Tuesday. I remember because it was farmer's market day, and I had just bought purple irises for the vase in the entryway. I have always believed that a house without flowers is like a heart without a beat. I was arranging them when my phone rang. It was Faith, my daughter-in-law. "Mother-in-law, I need to talk to you." Her voice had that tone, that one she used when she wanted something but disguised it as concern. I, still naive back then, thought perhaps she wanted to ask me for advice about Robert, my son. After all, they had been married for 3 years, and I always tried to be the mother-in-law who doesn't interfere, the one who respects their space. "Of course, sweetie, tell me." "It's about your birthday." My heart skipped a beat. My 70th birthday was 3 weeks away, and I had been dreaming of that gathering for months. Nothing ostentatious, just family. Robert, Faith, my 2 sisters who live in Boston, my cousins, a few lifelong neighbors. I wanted to make a turkey with all the fixings, including my famous mashed potatoes and gravy, the one my mother taught me to make, which takes 2 full days. I wanted to set the table with the embroidered tablecloth I saved for special occasions. I wanted to feel, if only for a few hours, that my family was complete. Because you see, I raised Robert alone since I was 35. His father, George, died of a massive heart attack while fixing the roof shingles. One second he was whistling a Frank Sinatra song. The next, he was gone. Robert was barely 8 years old. I remember how he clung to my skirt at the funeral, trembling, asking me if his dad would come back. I worked double shifts at Mr. Johnson's tailor shop for 15 years. My hands still bear the marks of the needles, tiny scars that look like constellations. I sewed prom dresses, wedding suits, school uniforms. Every stitch was so Robert could have new shoes, supplies, a computer when he started high school. I never remarried, not because I didn't have opportunities. There was a man, Michael, who owned a hardware store, who invited me for coffee every Sunday after church. He was kind, a widower too. But I always thought, what if Robert feels I'm betraying his father? What if a stranger makes him feel displaced? So I declined every invitation with a polite smile. Now, at 68, living in the same house George and I built brick by brick, I just wanted a party, a celebration to say, I made it, I got here. Tell me, Faith, what's happening with my birthday? There was a pause. I heard her inhale, as if preparing herself. Look, mother-in-law, Robert and I have been thinking, and honestly, we won't be able to organize anything. We are not spending money on that circus. Circus? She called my dream a circus. Besides, she continued, you're too old for that, don't you think? Parties are for young people. You need peace and quiet, not stress. I felt something inside me crack, like when you drop a porcelain cup, and for a second, before it shatters completely, you see the fissure expand in slow motion. But I thought, I know, but the situation is tough, mother-in-law. We have a lot of expenses. Maybe we can take you out for something simple another day. How about that? Before I could answer, I heard Robert's voice in the background. Give me the phone. Mom, my son said, with that tone he used when he wanted to be firm, but not cruel. You are way too old for that, Mom. A big gathering will only tire you out. We should just keep it low-key, okay? I looked at the purple irises in the vase. They were still dripping water onto the mahogany table that had been my grandmother's. That table where Robert did his homework for 12 years, where we celebrated every one of his birthdays with cake and candles, even if sometimes the cake was bought at the cheapest bakery because I couldn't afford anything more. No problem, I said. My voice sounded calm. Too calm. Perfect, Mom. We love you. We're busy right now. We'll call you later. He hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, watching a drop of water from the vase form a small puddle on the wood. I didn't cry. Not yet. But something inside me knew at that precise moment that the relationship with my son had just changed forever. What I didn't know was that this call was just the beginning. And what Faith didn't know was that she was awakening a lioness who had been asleep for decades. If you want to know how this story of betrayal became my greatest lesson in dignity, subscribe to the channel. Because what's coming, no one expected it, not even me. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay staring at the ceiling of my bedroom, counting the cracks that had formed over the years. 42. I have counted them so many times that I know them by heart. I kept thinking about the word Faith used. Circus. When did my life become a ridiculous spectacle for her? I got up at 40 minutes, as always. I made coffee in the tin pot that George gave me on our first anniversary. The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen, and for a moment, just for a moment, I felt at peace. But then I saw the calendar hanging next to the refrigerator. I had circled my birthday date in red and drawn small stars around it, like an excited child. How foolish I was. I tore the page off the calendar, crumpled it, and threw it in the trash can. But I couldn't help taking it out again, smoothing the paper with trembling hands, and putting it in the drawer where I keep old memories. Because that's me. I keep even the pain. What hurt the most wasn't the cancellation of the party. It was realizing that I had been blind for 3 full years. Let me go back. Let me tell you how Faith entered our lives. It was in May, 3 years ago. Robert came home with that nervous smile he got when he had something important to say. I was watering the potted plants on the porch. I have always had plants, geraniums, bougainvillea, a small patch of basil that I use for soup. "Mom, I want to introduce you to someone." And there she was, Faith, with her perfectly straight hair, her nails painted a pale pink, her white blouse without a single wrinkle. She smelled of expensive perfume, the kind they sell in department stores at the mall. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Davis. Robert has told me so much about you." Her smile was wide, her teeth dazzling white. She held out her hand, and when I took it, I noticed her skin was soft, hands that had never scrubbed floors or washed clothes by hand. "Call me Mary, sweetie," I told her. "We're not big on protocol here." We went inside the house. Faith looked at everything with those big, expressive eyes. She stopped in front of the shelf where I keep the family photos. "What a lovely family," she said, picking up the frame where George, Robert, and I appear in Miami. Robert was 5 years old and had just lost his first tooth. "You can tell you were very happy." "We were," I replied, and it was true. That first afternoon, Faith helped me prepare dinner. I made chicken and vegetable pot pie, Robert's favorite. She chopped the tomatoes and onions for the salad, asking me about the recipes, about how I met George, about my job at the tailor shop. "It must be wonderful to create dresses with your own hands," she said. "I don't have that talent. I'm a mess in the kitchen." She laughed with that crystalline laugh that made Robert look at her as if she were the only woman in the world. After dinner, while we were doing the dishes, Faith told me something that at the time seemed sweet. "Mrs. Davis, I want you to know that I will take very good care of Robert, and I hope you will teach me to be as strong as you are. My mom died when I was little, and I always wanted a mother-in-law who was like a second mother." I was moved. My eyes even welled up. I hugged her right there, my hands full of dish soap foam. "You're going to be part of this family, sweetie, and the doors are always open here." How naive I was. The following months were a dream. Faith came to visit me every Sunday. She brought pastries from that expensive French bakery near her work. She gave me hand creams, embroidered handkerchiefs, chocolates. I saw this and thought of you, mother-in-law. Mother-in-law. Back then, the word made me feel important, included. When Robert announced they were getting married, I cried with happiness. Finally, my son had found someone. Finally, he wouldn't be alone when I was gone. The wedding was simple. I sewed my own dress, a navy blue one with lace appliques. Faith looked radiant in her white gown. During the traditional mother-son dance, when Robert took me out onto the floor, he whispered in my ear, "Thank you for everything, Mom, for every sacrifice. I promise I will take care of you now." That promise, how much it would hurt to remember it later. The first few months of the marriage, Everything seemed perfect. They kept coming to the house every Sunday. Faith would hug me, ask how I was, offer to help me with the grocery shopping. But then I started noticing things, little things. One Sunday, Faith was walking through the living room and stopped in front of the wooden bookcase where I keep the family albums and some Southwestern-style ornaments I collect. "Oh, mother-in-law, do you still have these ancient things?" "They're my grandmother's," I replied. "They are over 70 years old." Right. It's just, I don't know, I think the house would look more modern without so many old decorations. Have you ever thought about renovating a bit?" Robert chuckled. "Faith has a good eye for decorating, Mom. Maybe you should listen to her." I didn't say anything, but something tightened in my chest. Another afternoon we were having coffee. Faith was looking out the window toward the garden. "Say, mother-in-law, and this house is very big for you alone, isn't it?" "Well, yes, sometimes it feels empty," I admitted, "but it's my home. I grew up here with Robert. All my memories are here." "Sure, I'm just saying that maintaining a house like this must be expensive. The property taxes, the utilities. Have you ever thought about something more practical? A condo, for example?" "Faith," Robert interrupted her, "leave her alone." But I noticed that he, too, looked at the house with different eyes, like evaluating, like calculating. The visits began to space out. They no longer came every Sunday. First, it was every 2 weeks, then once a month. "We have a lot of work, Mom." "The schedule is impossible, mother-in-law. You know how it is." I understood, or at least I told myself that. They are young, they have their lives. I can't be the suffocating mother-in-law who demands attention. But when I called them, Faith answered in a hurry. "Mother-in-law, I'm busy right now. I'll call you back." She never called back. And when they did come, Faith no longer helped me in the kitchen. She sat in the living room, checking her phone, while I prepared the meal alone. She no longer brought pastries. She no longer asked how I was. One afternoon, while serving the chili I had prepared early that morning, I overheard a conversation I shouldn't have heard. They were in the backyard. They thought I was in the kitchen, but I had approached the window to close it because the wind was picking up. "Seriously, Robert, your mom should sell this house. Look at it. It's falling apart, and the land must be worth a fortune with the neighborhood like it is." "Faith, I told you that." "No, understand. We need the down payment for the condo, and she's here, all alone, maintaining this huge old place. It makes no sense. Talk to her. She'll surely understand." "It's not that easy." "Of course it's easy. Tell her it's for her own good, that a smaller house is safer for an elderly person. You'll see, she'll accept." My hand trembled holding the chili ladle. I closed the window with more force than necessary. When I returned to the table, I smiled as if nothing had happened. But that night, lying in my bed, I understood something I had been denying for months. Faith never saw me as family. She saw me as an asset, and my son, the boy I raised alone, the one who swore to take care of me, was letting it happen. But I hadn't seen anything yet. The mask was just beginning to fall. And when it finally fell completely, I would realize that I had been living with a stranger. Exactly 9 days passed since the call canceling my birthday. 9 days in which I heard nothing from them. Not a call, not a text, nothing. I continued my routine. I got up, made my coffee, watered the plants, watched my afternoon soap operas. But there was something different about me, a kind of constant alertness, like when you know it's going to rain, but the sky is still clear. On the 10th day, Robert called me. "Mom, what are you doing Saturday?" "Nothing in particular, son. Why?" "We want to invite you to dinner, at our place. Faith is going to cook." Faith cooking. That was news. In 3 years of marriage, I had never seen her prepare anything more elaborate than a sandwich. "Of course, son. I'll be there." "Perfect. Around 7 o'clock. And Mom, dress up." That last sentence made me think, dress up? For a family dinner at their house? On Saturday, I put on my light blue blouse, the one with embroidery on the collar. I put my hair up in a low bun, the way my mother taught me. I put on the pearl earrings that George gave me on our 10th anniversary. I looked in the mirror and wondered why I felt butterflies in my stomach, butterflies of fear. I took the bus to their neighborhood. They live in a new development, one of those with security gates and perfectly paved streets. Their house is nice, 2 stories with a front yard. When they opened the door for me, I noticed something strange. The table was set, but not casually. There was a tablecloth I didn't recognize, wine glasses, napkins folded like flowers, and only 3 settings. "Mom, come in. Good thing you made it." Robert kissed my cheek. He smelled of that expensive cologne he wears now. He doesn't use the one I used to give him for his birthdays anymore. Faith came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a cloth. She was wearing a black dress, perfect makeup, heels, to be at home on a Saturday night. "Mother-in-law, welcome. Sit down, sit down." She pointed to the chair in the center. They sat one on each side, as if surrounding me. The dinner started quietly. Faith had prepared chicken in a mushroom sauce. It was dry, and the sauce tasted like canned sour cream. But I ate without saying anything. We talked about unimportant things, the weather, the news, the traffic. But I felt the tension. It hung in the air like smoke. It was after dessert when everything changed. Robert cleared his throat. He exchanged a look with Faith. She nodded, giving him courage. "Mom, we want to talk to you about something important." I put my fork down on the plate. My hands felt cold. "Tell me, son." "You see, Faith and I have been thinking about our future. We want to buy a bigger condo. This one is getting too small for us, and well, we're thinking of having kids soon." My heart leaped. Grandchildren? That was wonderful. "Oh, son, that's such great news. And how can I help?" Robert looked at his plate. Faith took control of the conversation. "Look, mother-in-law, the condo we want costs $2,300,000. We already have the loan approved, but we need $850,000 for the down payment." $850,000. The figure hung in the air like a sentence. "That's a lot of money," I said slowly. "It is," Faith continued, leaning toward me. "That's why we thought, well, you live alone in that big house. It must be exhausting to maintain, the property taxes, the utilities, the repairs. And at your age?" "I am 68, Faith, not 80. Sure. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying that a smaller house would be more practical for you, safer, and the money you get from the sale could help us with the down payment. You could rent a nice modern condo without so much maintenance." I looked at my son. I expected him to say something, to defend me, to say it was crazy. But Robert just looked at his wine glass, swirling it slowly. "It's your house, Mom," he finally said, without looking me in the eyes. "But we are your family, and families support each other, right? Think about your grandchildren, about giving them a good home." Grandchildren who didn't exist yet. Grandchildren they were using as bait. "That house," I said, and my voice sounded firmer than I expected. "Your father and I built it, brick by brick. You were born there. Every memory of my life with George is there. 35 years of my existence are there. Memories are in the heart, mother-in-law, not in the walls." Faith smiled at me, but her eyes were cold. "Besides, think about it carefully. What are you going to do with that house when you can no longer take care of it? When you're old and need help? It's better to sell it now while it's still worth a good price." "Old," the word hit me like a slap. "It's not my intention to offend you," she continued. "I'm just being realistic. You won't live forever, and when you're gone, that house will be sold anyway. Wouldn't you prefer to see your son happy, settled, with his own family?" The silence that followed was dense. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock, the hum of the refrigerator, my own breathing. "I need to think about it," I said. "Of course," Robert replied quickly, as if he had been waiting for that answer. "Take your time, Mom. There's no rush." But Faith added, "Although the owner of the condo only gives us 3 weeks to come up with the down payment. After that, he sells it to someone else." 3 weeks. The same amount of time left until my birthday. The birthday they canceled because they didn't want to spend money on that circus. But they did want me to sell my house, my entire life. I got up from the table. My legs were trembling, but I wasn't going to let them notice. "I'm leaving. I have to get up early tomorrow." "We'll drive you, Mom." "No, I'll take the bus. I need some fresh air." I walked toward the door. Faith caught up to me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Mother-in-law, think about it carefully. It's for everyone's good. You would also benefit from it." I looked her in the eyes. For the first time in 3 years, I really saw her. I saw the ambition, the coldness, the manipulation. "Good night, Faith." On the bus ride back, as the city lights passed by the window, I realized something terrible. My son was asking me to sell my life to finance his, and what was worse, he saw it as normal, as something I should do. I arrived home just after 10:00 at night. I turned on the living room lights. I saw the mahogany furniture that had been my grandmother's, the photos on the walls, the bookcase full of memories, the rocking chair where I breastfed Robert for months. I sat in that rocking chair, and finally, after days of holding it in, I cried. I cried for the naivete of having believed that Faith cared for me. I cried for my son, who had become a stranger. I cried for the sacrifices I made that now seemed worthless. But between the tears, something else was growing. A rage, still small, but real. Because I had given everything, absolutely everything. And now they wanted the only thing I had left. My phone vibrated. A text message from Faith. "Mother-in-law, I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable. We only want what's best for everyone. Think about it with love. Kisses. Kisses." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. And for the first time in my life, I thought, enough is enough. On Monday morning at 7:00 on the dot, my phone rang. It was Faith. "Good morning, mother-in-law. Did you eat breakfast yet? Did you sleep well?" Her voice sounded sweet, too sweet, like when you talk to a child who doesn't want to take their medicine. "Good morning, Faith. Yes, thank you." "Oh, that's good. Listen, have you thought about what we talked about Saturday?" Only 36 hours had passed. "I'm still thinking about it, sweetie. It's a big decision." Sure. It's just that time is running out, right? We don't want to lose that opportunity. The condo is a gem. It has a beautiful park view. Imagine your grandchildren playing there. The imaginary grandchildren again. Yes, it sounds nice. So, do you think you'll have an answer by the weekend? That way we can start moving everything quickly. Faith, only 2 days have passed. I know, mother-in-law. I'm sorry if I'm being pushy. It's just that I'm so excited. Robert and I have been dreaming of this for months. You understand, right? She hung up before I could answer. On Tuesday, she called me at 8:00 in the morning. On Wednesday, at 7:30. On Thursday, twice. Once in the morning and once in the afternoon. Always the same song. Always the same pressure disguised as enthusiasm. "Have you thought about it yet, mother-in-law?" "Mother-in-law, I found a lovely rental nearby. Do you want to go see it?" "The seller pressured me today. He says he already has other interested parties." On Friday afternoon, I was at the market buying tomatoes when I saw a car parked in front of my house. It was Robert's, but he wasn't alone. There was a man with a briefcase, gray suit, blue tie. I quickened my pace. When I arrived, I found Faith at my door with that man. She was ringing the doorbell insistently. "Faith? What are you doing here?" She turned around with a huge smile. "Oh, mother-in-law, good thing you arrived. Look, I brought Mr. Duran. He is a real estate agent. I thought it would be good for him to explain how much you can get for your little house, just so you have all the information, right?" Little house. Now my house was a little house. Mr. Duran extended his hand. "Ma'am, nice to meet you. Your daughter-in-law hired me to do a preliminary appraisal. With your permission, I would like to take a quick look at the property, just the exterior, of course. That way I can give you an estimate." "I didn't authorize any appraisal." "Of course not, mother-in-law." Faith approached me, taking my arm. "It's just informational, so you know your options. There's no commitment." I looked at Mr. Duran, then at Faith. Her eyes shone with something that wasn't love. It was something else. Hunger. "No, thank you. When I need a real estate agent, I will hire one myself." Faith's smile wavered for a second. "Just 1 second. Whatever you like, mother-in-law. We just wanted to help." They left, but the message had been clear. They weren't going to give up. That night, Robert called me. His voice sounded tired. "Mom, Faith told me you rejected the appraiser." "Robert, I didn't ask for any appraiser." "I know, but you're making this harder than it should be." "Harder for whom, son?" Silence. "For everyone, Mom. Look, I know it's your house and it has sentimental value, but you have to be practical. Think about the future, about your old age. Who is going to take care of you when you can no longer manage on your own? And selling my house will make you want to take care of me? It's not that. It's just that Faith is very stressed. The doctor says stress can affect, well, we might be expecting a baby. It's not certain yet, but there it was, the final hook. A baby. Maybe. Perhaps. Possibly. Son, if Faith is pregnant, I'm very happy. But that doesn't change my situation. Your situation? His voice rose. Mom, we are your situation. We are your family. If you really loved us, you would help us. But it seems that house matters more to you than your own son. Those words pierced me like knives. Robert, forget it. I thought I could count on you. I thought that after everything I did for you, you would do this for me. But I was wrong. Everything you did for me? Robert, I raised you alone. I worked double shifts for 15 years. Yes, Mom, I know. You've reminded me 1,000 times. I sacrificed my life for you. I worked so hard for you. But I never asked you for any of that. You decided to have me. You decided not to remarry. Those were your decisions. He hung up. I was left with the phone in my hand, trembling. Tears fell without me being able to control them. Had my son just said that I reminded him too much of my sacrifices? That he never asked me to raise him? I sat in the rocking chair. Outside, the night was dark. Not even the neighborhood dogs were barking. Everything was silent. I thought about all the nights I stayed awake when Robert had a fever, putting cold cloths on his forehead. I thought about the times I didn't eat so he could have 3 meals a day. I thought about the shoes I patched up again and again because I couldn't afford new ones. And now he was telling me he never asked for it. On Saturday, Faith showed up again. This time she brought flyers. Mother-in-law, look. I found beautiful rental condos. This one has 1 bedroom, a built-in kitchenette, it's on a ground floor so you don't have to climb stairs, and it only costs $650 a month. With the money you get from your house, you can pay years of rent and still have some left over to help us. Take the flyers. I looked at them. Condos the size of my living room. Cold, white walls. No yard. No history. Faith, I need more time. Her face hardened. The mask was falling faster and faster. Time is what we don't have, mother-in-law. I lose the condo on Monday. Do you understand? Monday, in 3 days, and all because you can't let go of an old house full of junk. That junk is my life. Your life is over. She looked me straight in the eyes. I'm sorry if it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Your husband died more than 30 years ago. Robert grew up and has his own family now. You clung to a past that no longer exists, and in the meantime, we, who are your present, are begging you for help. Begging me. I repeated the word. Is that what you're doing? Begging? And what else do you want us to do? Get down on our knees? I want you to leave me alone. The words came out before I could stop them. Faith froze. Then she laughed. A short, bitter laugh. Fine. We'll leave you alone. Enjoy your house by yourself. Enjoy your memories, because that's all you're going to have. She left, slamming the door. I sat on the sofa. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. I picked up my phone. I dialed a number I hadn't used in months. Brenda? It's Mary. I need to talk to you. Brenda had been my friend for 20 years. We met at the market. She sells flowers. She's one of those women who tells the truth without anesthesia. Mary, what's wrong? You sound strange. I think my son and daughter-in-law want to steal my house. There was a pause. I'm on my way. Brenda arrived 20 minutes later with a bag of donuts and a thermos of hot spiced cider. When there are problems, you have to eat, she said, putting everything on the table. Now tell me everything, and don't skip anything. I told her. From the call canceling my birthday to Faith's visit that same morning. Brenda listened in silence, chewing her donut, her eyes narrowed behind her glasses. When I finished, she put her cup down with a dry thump. That girl is a snake, and your son is a fool. Brenda! No, Mary. Things need to be said clearly. That woman is squeezing you like a lemon, and Robert is letting her. You know what smells bad to me? that they suddenly need $850,000 so urgently. I sell flowers, but I wasn't born yesterday. There's something fishy going on. You think? I don't think. I know. Look, my friend Rose works at a law firm. Her nephew is an attorney. His name is Richard. He's a good guy and discreet. Do you want me to call him? He can look into things a little, see if your suspicions have any basis. I hesitated. Investigate my own son? It sounded so cold, so calculating. But then I remembered Robert's voice telling me, I never asked you to raise me. Call him. Richard came on Tuesday afternoon. He was a young man, about 35, with round glasses and a kind smile. He sat in my living room and took out a notepad. Mrs. Davis, I understand you are going through a delicate situation. Tell me exactly what you need. I explained everything again. He took notes, nodded, and asked specific questions. Do you have the full names of your son and daughter-in-law? Do you know where they work? Have they ever asked you to sign any documents? I answered everything. Richard closed his notepad. Give me a week. I'm going to check some things. Public records, background checks, basic credit situation, all legal. Don't worry. And in the meantime, ma'am, one piece of advice. Don't sign anything. Absolutely nothing. Even if your son asks you to. Even if they cry. Even if they threaten. Understood? I nodded. Richard left. I was left with a strange feeling. Half relief, half guilt. What kind of mother investigates her son? But then my phone vibrated. Another message from Faith. Mother-in-law, Monday is the deadline. Robert didn't sleep last night from worry. I don't know if you want to carry that on your conscience. Think about it. I deleted the message. The following days were calmer. They didn't call. They didn't visit. It was as if they had given me a break. I took the opportunity to do something I had been putting off, deep cleaning the yard. The May rains had made the grass grow, and some rose bushes looked neglected. I was pruning the white rose bush I planted when Robert was born, when my shovel hit something metallic. Strange. I dug a little more. It was a box. A rusty metal box, the size of a shoebox, buried under the rose bush. With trembling hands, I pulled it out. It was closed with an old padlock that broke with a tug. Inside were rolled-up documents, protected with plastic. I unrolled them on the dining room table. They were the original deeds to the house, the ones George and I signed 40 years ago, and there was something handwritten by George on the last page. This house is for Mary, built with our love and effort. Don't let anyone ever take it from you, my love. Tears began to fall onto the paper. I had to wipe them away quickly so as not to ruin the ink. But there was more in the box. Letters. Love letters that George wrote to me when we were dating. His cramped handwriting, his clumsy but sincere words. Mary, you are stronger than 10 men put together. Never let anyone make you feel small. And at the bottom of the box, wrapped in a thick plastic bag, there was money. Old bills, from back when $20 bills still looked different. I counted them with shaking hands. $230,000. A note accompanied the money, also in George's handwriting. For our old age together, my Mary, for when we can no longer work, so that you never have to depend on anyone. I love you, George. I collapsed into the chair. George had been saving in secret. For years. For me. For us. And I never knew because he died before he could tell me. I cried. I cried as I hadn't cried since his funeral. I cried for the man who loved me so much that, even after death, he was still taking care of me. I cried for all the years I lost without him. I cried for the loneliness. But between the tears, something else was being born. A clarity. George had left me this for a reason. Not just the money. Also the words. Never let anyone make you feel small. And that was exactly what Faith and Robert were doing. Making me feel small, useless, in the way. I wiped my tears. I put the deeds away in a safe place. I counted the money again, just to be sure. $230,000 exactly. It wasn't enough for the down payment Robert and Faith were asking for, but it was enough for something more important. It was enough to defend myself. On Thursday, Richard called me. Mrs. Davis, I need to see you. Can Brenda come too? What I found, it's better that we talk about it in person. An hour later, the three of us were sitting in my living room. Richard opened his briefcase and took out several papers. "Ma'am, what I'm about to tell you is not easy to hear, but you need to know it." My heart raced. "Your son Robert does not need your financial help. In fact, he is in a very good financial situation. 3 months ago, he received a sales bonus from his company for $1,200,000. What? There's more. Your daughter-in-law Faith has credit card debts of $340,000, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, 2 trips to Miami last year. And she is not pregnant. I checked her social media. 2 days ago, she uploaded a photo at a bar drinking beer. A pregnant woman wouldn't do that." Brenda let out a strong word that I won't repeat. Richard continued, "There's something else. I found messages in a public forum where Faith participates. She talks about convincing her mother-in-law to sell her house. And I quote exactly, 'The old lady is almost giving in. When she sells, my mom and I will split what's left over after the down payment.'" The world stopped. Her mom? Faith was planning to give a portion of the money to her mother. This was never just about the condo. It was a business deal between the two of them. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood kids were playing soccer in the street. The sun was shining, life went on, but I felt that something inside me had definitively broken. "Does Robert know about this?" My voice sounded hoarse. "I can't confirm it, but he knows they don't need the money. I'm sure of that." Brenda took my hand. "Mary, that girl wants to rob you, and your son is letting her." I looked at the deeds I had found under the rose bush. I looked at George's note. "Never let anyone make you feel small." I turned to Richard. "What can I do?" Richard smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who knows he has the winning cards. "Mrs. Davis, I can do many things, but first I need you to answer something. Do you want to defend yourself, or do you want to counterattack?" Brenda squeezed my hand. I thought about all the messages, the calls, the word circus, Robert telling me he never asked me to raise him, Faith calling me old. And for the first time in 68 years of life, I said something I never thought I would say. "I want to counterattack." Richard took out more papers from his briefcase. "Perfect. Then I need you to formally authorize me to act on your behalf. We're going to do this right legally, without them being able to turn things against you." I signed the documents he put in front of me. My hand trembled, but the signature came out clearly. "Now," Richard continued, "I need access to any documents you have related to your house, deeds, tax receipts, utility bills. I also need to know if they have ever asked you to sign anything, even if it seems unimportant." "Only the deeds I found buried, and I have never signed anything for them." "Good. That gives us an advantage. Your house is completely in your name with no liens or debts. No one can force you to sell it. But Faith is going to try to pressure you more, and when she does, I need you to record the conversations." "Record?" "Your phone has a recorder, right? Every time they call you or visit you, record everything. It's legal as long as you are part of the conversation. Those recordings can be evidence if we ever need it." Brenda nodded. "I'll show you how, Mary. It's easy." "In the meantime," Richard said, "I'm going to deepen the investigation. I want to know exactly how much money they have, what else they are hiding, and if there is anything else behind all this. Do you authorize me?" "Yes. I want to know the whole truth." Richard left. Brenda stayed with me, showing me how to use the phone's recorder, making me practice until I got it right. "Mary, one more thing," she told me before leaving. "You have to be strong. When you discover everything, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. But remember, you didn't cause this. They chose to treat you this way." That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Robert's face when he was a child. When he woke me up in the early hours to tell me he had a nightmare, I would hug him. I would sing softly until he fell asleep again. When did that boy turn into this man? On Friday morning, as I expected, Faith called. This time I activated the recorder. "Mother-in-law, good morning. Look, I know we've been pressuring you a lot, and I apologize, but we really are desperate. We lose the condo on Monday, and, well, Robert is devastated. He says you don't love him anymore." "He says that?" Yes, he cried last night, mother-in-law. Your son cried because of you. He says that after everything he's done, you're rejecting him at the moment he needs you most. The words were perfect, the tone dramatic, but I already knew the truth. Faith, are you pregnant? There was a pause. Very brief, but I noticed it. Well, it's not certain yet, but there are symptoms. That's why we need the bigger condo. For the baby. A lie. It was all a lie. And does Robert really need my help? Doesn't he have any money saved? Another pause. Mother-in-law, you know how things are. Everything is so expensive. Of course, Robert works hard, but it's not enough. That's why we need you. Because a mother always supports her children, right? Let me think about it this weekend. I'll give you a definitive answer on Monday. Monday? But mother-in-law? Monday, Faith. That's my final word. I hung up. I saved the recording with the name and date. On Saturday, Richard showed up again. He brought a thick folder. Mrs. Davis, I found everything, and it's worse than I thought. He sat across from me. He opened the folder. Robert didn't just receive that bonus of $1,200,000. He also has savings of another $300,000 in an investment account. He only needs to put together $350,000 more for the down payment. He could borrow it from the bank or get a bridge loan. He does not need to sell your house. Then why? Because it's easier to get the money from you than for them to go into debt. And there's something more serious. Richard pulled out screenshots. I managed to access public conversations between Faith and her mother on social media. Look at this. I read, and with every word, I felt my heart shrink. Mom, did you convince the old lady yet? Remember, we need that cash for the business. Faith. Almost. She's more stubborn than I thought, but she's giving in. I fed her the baby story. Mom, LOL, you're the best. When you have the money, you pass me my share. $200,000, like we agreed. Faith. It's a deal, even though I hate the old lady. All day with her memories and her old photos. I'm sick of her. Mom, just hang on. When she sells, you won't have to see her often. The letters looked blurry. I was crying without realizing it. Keep reading, Richard said softly. Faith. Robert still doesn't know about your part. Mom, better that way. Men just complicate things. Faith. Anyway, I've thoroughly brainwashed him. Now he also thinks his mom should sell. It was easier than I thought. Brenda, who had arrived while I was reading, hugged me. I couldn't stop trembling. There's more, Richard said. Faith's debts are from a failed business venture. She and her mother wanted to open a boutique. They took out loans, bought expensive merchandise, but never sold anything. Now they're drowning in debt. Her mother lost her house last year. That's why she's renting. And they want me to lose mine to save them. Exactly. The condo they say they want to buy does exist. But the rush is a lie. It's still available. The seller doesn't have other buyers. I checked that too. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. And Robert? Does he know all this? I can't prove it completely. But I found this. He showed me another message. This one was between Robert and Faith. Robert, my mom is hesitating. Maybe we should try something else. Faith, no. We've invested too much time in this. Your mom is stubborn, but she'll break. She just needs more pressure. Let me handle this. Robert, I don't know, Faith. I feel bad. Faith, you feel bad asking your mom for help? Seriously? She lived in that house her whole life. It's her turn now. Now it's our turn. Stop being such a softie. I closed my eyes. My son knew. Maybe he didn't know about the plan with the mother-in-law. Maybe he didn't know about the $200,000, but he knew they were pressuring me unfairly, and he allowed it. Mrs. Davis, Richard said, with this evidence, we can do several things. We can report them for attempted elder fraud. We can request a restraining order. We can. No. Both of them looked at me, surprised. I don't want to send them to jail. I don't want lawsuits. I want something better. What do you want? I wiped away the last tears. Inside me, something had changed. The pain was turning into something else, determination. I want them to feel what I felt. I want them to understand what they tried to do to me. I want justice, but not from judges. I want life to make them pay. Brenda smiled. That's my girl, Mary. Richard nodded slowly. I understand. And do you have a plan in mind? Not yet, but on Monday I'm going to give them my answer, and it's going to be an answer they will never forget. That night I took out the metal box again. I read all of George's letters. When I got to the last one, I found one I hadn't seen before. It was stuck to the bottom of the box. My dearest Mary, if you are reading this, it's because I'm gone. I want you to know that you were the best thing in my life. But I also want you to know something important. You are a lioness, not a pet. Don't let anyone, not even our son, make you feel like you are worth less than you are. You are strong, stronger than me, stronger than the world. Don't ever forget it. I love you forever. George. I folded the letter carefully. I won't forget it, my love, I whispered. I promise. I spent all day Sunday thinking, planning, preparing, because Monday was not going to be just any day. On Monday, the circus was finally going to close. Monday dawned with a gray sky, those skies that threaten rain but never quite let the drops fall. I got up early as always. I made my coffee. I watered the plants. I put on my wine-colored blouse, the one George said made me look elegant. I put my hair up. I put on that peach-toned lipstick that I hardly ever use. If I was going to face them, I would look good doing it. At 10:00 in the morning, Faith called. Mother-in-law, good morning. So, have you thought about it? Yes, Faith, I have. Oh, that's good. And? I need to talk to both of you, Robert and you, in person. Perfect. Can you come over today? We're home. That's fine. I'll come in the afternoon. Better come for lunch, mother-in-law. That way we can talk calmly. I hung up. I looked at my reflection in the hallway mirror. I looked different. I was no longer the scared woman of 2 weeks ago. There was something new in my eyes. I arrived at their house at 20 in the afternoon. I rang the doorbell. Robert opened the door with a nervous smile. Mom, come in. Good thing you came. He kissed my cheek. He smelled of that expensive cologne. In the living room, Faith was finishing setting the table. She had prepared breaded chicken with salad. Nothing elaborate, but it looked presentable. Mother-in-law, welcome. Please sit down. I sat down. They settled one on each side, like that first time, as if they were cornering me. We ate in uncomfortable silence. I chewed slowly, observing them. Faith shifted restlessly in her chair. Robert wouldn't look me in the eyes. When we finished, Faith wiped her mouth with the napkin and smiled. Well, mother-in-law, you have us in suspense. What did you decide? Before I answer, I want to ask you something. Anything, Robert said quickly. Do you love me? Of course we do, Mom. Why do you ask that? Because I need to understand it. I need to understand how someone who loves me asks me to sell the only thing I have. How someone who loves me cancels my birthday, calling it a circus. How someone who loves me calls me old and tells me my life is over. Faith paled. Mother-in-law, I never... Yes, you did, Faith. You said it. And Robert, you told me you never asked me to raise you, that they were my decisions. Mom, I was angry. And does that justify everything? Does anger justify cruelty? The silence fell heavily. Look, I continued, I came to give you my answer. I'm not going to sell my house. Faith stiffened. What? I'm not going to sell my house. It's my home. It's where my life is, my memories, my history. And no one, not even you, is going to force me to leave it. Robert ran a hand through his hair. Mom, but we were counting on that. We already made plans. Plans based on my sacrifice. Again, always my sacrifice. Faith stood up abruptly. The sweetness was gone from her face. You know what, mother-in-law? You're right. Your house, your life, your decision. But don't ever ask me to take you to the doctor again. Don't ever ask me to keep you company. Don't ever expect us on Sundays, because we're not coming. Faith, Robert tried to stop her. No, Robert, I'm done. Your mom is selfish. She only thinks about herself. We asked her for help once, and she rejects us. Well, let her be alone with her old house and her old junk. I stood up too. I was no longer trembling. There were no more tears. Selfish? I'm the selfish one? I worked double shifts for 15 years so my son could have everything. I gave up my life, falling in love again, my own dreams. And now that I'm 68 and only asked to be left alone with the little I have left, I'm selfish? That was your decision, Faith retorted. Nobody forced you. You're right. It was my decision. And now my decision is to tell you no. And if that makes me selfish, fine. I'd rather be selfish than stupid. I walked toward the door. Robert caught up to me. Mom, wait. Don't leave like this. We can talk about it. I looked at him. I really looked at him, and I saw a man I no longer recognized. There's nothing to talk about, son. You already made your decision, and I made mine. Mom, you'll regret this. Those words stopped me cold. I turned around. Are you threatening me? It's not a threat. It's reality. When you need help, when you're sick, when you're alone, we won't be there. Something inside me broke definitively. Not from sadness, from liberation. Then I guess I'm already alone, because a son who threatens me, a son who only seeks me out for my house, that son no longer exists to me. I walked out. I didn't run. I walked with my back straight, my head held high. But as soon as I turned the corner, I had to stop. I leaned against a wall, breathing deeply. I had done it. I had told them no, and it hurt. God, how it hurt. But it also felt good, like taking off tight shoes after a long day. I arrived home as it was getting dark. Brenda was waiting for me at the door. How did it go? I told them no. She hugged me. And there, in my friend's arms, I finally cried. But they were different tears, not of defeat, of relief. You did the right thing, Mary. I know. But it hurts. Of course it hurts. He's your son. But sometimes self-love hurts more than love for others, and that's okay. That night, lying in my bed, I thought about everything. The years I dedicated to Robert, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the unconditional love I gave him. And I understood something important. I didn't regret any of that. I regretted having expected him to value it, because a mother's love does not expect reward, but it also does not accept abuse. On Tuesday morning, I woke up with a strange feeling. Peace. For the first time in weeks, peace. I was having breakfast when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Davis? Yes, who is this? This is Diane Porter, your son Robert's neighbor. Sorry to bother you. I got your number from Mrs. Lopez at the corner store. I need to talk to you. It's important. Did something happen? Not over the phone. Can you come to the Arches coffee shop, the one on the corner near your son's house? Something in her voice alerted me. When? Today at 50 minutes? I'll be there. At 50 minutes on the dot, I entered the coffee shop. Diane was a woman in her 40s, elegant, with short hair. She greeted me with a sad smile. Mrs. Davis, thank you for coming. Look, I don't know if I should get involved, but my conscience won't let me rest. What is going on? Last Saturday, Faith hosted a gathering at their house. She invited neighbors, friends, family. She said it was a surprise party for you. For my birthday, the one they had canceled. A surprise party? Yes, I went because I thought it was nice. But then? Ma'am, Faith took the microphone and said something that seemed very strange to me. What did she say? Diane took out her cell phone. I recorded it because it seemed odd. Listen. She pressed play, and I heard Faith's voice, clear and cheerful. Thank you all for coming to celebrate my mother-in-law Mary on her 70th birthday. I want to take this opportunity to share some beautiful news. My mother-in-law, in an act of immense love, has decided to sell her house to help us with the down payment for our condo. It's her way of showing us how much she loves us and how much she cares about our future. Let's give a round of applause to this generous woman. Applause. Lots of applause. And then Robert's voice. Thank you, Mom. We knew we could count on you. Diane turned off the phone. Ma'am, everyone thought you had voluntarily agreed. Faith told everyone that you were happy to help them. Is that true? My hands were shaking. No, I never agreed. I told them no. Diane closed her eyes. I figured. That's why I wanted to talk to you. Ma'am, Your daughter-in-law used you. In front of 50 people, she used you to look good. I remained silent. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Do you have that full recording? Yes. Can you send it to me? Of course. Give me your number. That night, at my house, I listened to the full recording over and over again. The applause, the congratulations, Faith's words. They used me. They publicly humiliated me. They held me up as an example of generosity when I never agreed to anything. And Robert was there, smiling, accepting congratulations for something that never happened. I called Richard. Attorney, I've changed my mind. I no longer just want to defend myself. What do you want? I want them to pay. I want justice, and I want it now. Richard arrived at my house at 9:00 minutes on Wednesday morning. He brought another folder, thicker than the previous one. Mrs. Davis, I listened to the recording you sent me. This changes everything. What they did is defamation and misuse of your image, but I have a better idea than a lawsuit. What is it? We're going to give them exactly what they want, or at least we're going to make them think we are. Brenda, who was also present, leaned forward. Explain yourself, young man. Richard smiled. It was a slightly frightening smile. We're going to set up a meeting. We're going to tell them that Mrs. Davis has finally agreed to sell. We're going to have witnesses, evidence, everything ready. And when they show their true colors in front of everyone, that's when we act. I don't understand, I said. Ma'am, they humiliated you publicly by saying you had agreed to help them. Now we are going to expose them publicly by showing who they really are. But I need your permission, and I need you to be strong. It's going to hurt. I thought about the recording, about Robert accepting congratulations for a lie, about Faith using my name to look good. Let's do it. I spent the following days preparing. Richard explained the plan step by step. I just had to follow his instructions. On Friday, I called Robert. I activated the recorder. Son, it's me. There was a surprised pause. Mom, I wasn't expecting your call. I know. Look, I've been thinking a lot about what happened Monday, and I think you're right. What? The house is too big for me. I'm getting old, and you are my family. If selling helps you, then I'm going to do it. Silence. Long silence. Mom, seriously? Yes, son, seriously. But I have one condition. What is it? I want it to be formal, with a notary, with witnesses. I want to do it properly, and I want you to come to my house on Saturday at 4:00 minutes in the afternoon with Faith. We'll sign everything here. Mom, Thank you. Thank you. I knew you would understand. I love you. Those words. I love you. They sounded so empty now. I'll see you Saturday, son. I hung up. I saved the recording. Brenda hugged me. Mary, are you sure about this? More sure than ever. Saturday dawned sunny. Ironic. The important days of my life had always been cloudy or rainy, but this day, the day everything would end, the sun was shining. Richard arrived at 2:00 minutes with two other people, a public notary named Mr. Grant and a woman he introduced as his legal assistant, Monica. Mrs. Davis, Mr. Grant is completely trustworthy. Monica is going to record everything. Ready? Ready. Brenda and her husband Tom were also there as witnesses. And Diane, the neighbor who had shown me the party recording. She had agreed to come when I asked. At 4:00 minutes on the dot, the doorbell rang. It was Robert and Faith. She was wearing a new dress, perfect makeup, a huge smile. Robert wore a freshly ironed shirt and looked nervous but happy. Mom, Robert hugged me tightly. Thank you for reconsidering. You don't know what this means to us. Faith hugged me too. Mother-in-law, you're an angel, really, an angel. I gestured toward the living room. Come in, we need to make this formal. When they walked in and saw all the people, Faith stopped short. Who are they? Mr. Grant is a public notary. Richard is my lawyer. Brenda and Tom are witnesses. And Diane, well, Diane is someone who has something interesting to show you. Faith's smile began to fade. Your lawyer? Mom, why do you need a lawyer? Robert looked at me, confused. Please sit down. They sat on the sofa. The rest of us formed a semicircle around them. Monica had her camera pointing. "Before we sign anything," I began, "I want to clarify a few points." "Sure, Mom. Whatever you need." "First, I want you to explain something to me. 2 weeks ago, you hosted a party where you told 50 people that I had agreed to sell my house. Why did you do that?" Faith paled. Robert looked at his wife. "Faith? Well, we thought you were going to accept. We just anticipated things a bit." Anticipated. Interesting word. "Diane, can you play the recording?" Robert closed his eyes. Faith stood up. "This is a trap." "No, Faith. This is the truth. Now sit down, because we have a lot more to talk about." Richard opened his folder. "Mrs. Davis, can you confirm that you have credit card debts of $340,000? That's private. Can you confirm that you plan to give your mother $200,000 from the sale money?" Faith froze. Robert looked at her. "What?" "And Mr. Davis," Richard continued, "can you confirm that you received a bonus of $1,200,000 3 months ago?" My son looked at me. There was no more confusion in his eyes. There was fear. "Mom, I can explain?" "No need, son. Attorney Richard already explained everything to me. Faith's debts, the failed business with her mother, the bonus you received, the pregnancy that never existed. Everything." Faith tried to leave. Tom blocked the door. "No one leaves until we're finished," Brenda said in a firm voice. "Mrs. Davis," Mr. Grant said, "do you confirm that you never intended to sell your house?" "That's right. Never." "And do you confirm that you were pressured, manipulated, and publicly defamed by these individuals?" "I confirm," Mr. Grant wrote in his documents. "Then I must inform you, Mr. Davis and Mrs. Davis, that what you attempted to do constitutes several crimes: attempted dispossession by deception, financial abuse of an elder, and defamation. Mrs. Davis has the right to file criminal charges." Faith started crying. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of, "This is ridiculous. He's her son. We just asked for help." "No, Faith," I said, standing up. "You didn't ask for help. You tried to rob me. There's a difference." Robert had his head in his hands. "Mom, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I didn't know everything. Faith told me." "What did she tell you, son? That I was old? That my life was over? That you should pressure me? Because I have recordings where you also said horrible things to me." I took out my phone. I played his voice. "I never asked you to raise me. They were your decisions." Robert broke. He started crying, not like a man, like a child. "Forgive me, Mom. Please." Richard cleared his throat. "Mrs. Davis, do you want to proceed legally?" Everyone was looking at me, Faith with hatred, Robert with desperation, Brenda with pride, Diane with curiosity. I thought of George, his letters, his words. "You are a lioness." "I'm not going to send my son to jail," I finally said, "but I am going to set conditions." "What conditions?" Robert asked in a hoarse voice. "1. I don't want to see either of you for 1 full year. 0 contact, 0 calls, 0 visits." "Mom." 2. You will publish a public apology on social media admitting that you lied about my supposed agreement to sell the house, admitting that you pressured me unfairly." Faith stood up again. "Never." 3. I continued without looking at her. "Robert will go to therapy, individual therapy, to understand why he allowed his wife to treat me like this." "I accept," Robert said immediately. And 4. If you ever approach me again with intentions of manipulating or harming me, Richard will proceed with all possible legal charges. And this time, I will show no mercy. The notary wrote everything down. "Do you accept these terms?" Robert nodded. "I accept everything, Mom. Everything." Faith crossed her arms. "This is abuse." "No, Faith," I said, looking her directly in the eyes. "Abuse is what you did to me. This is justice. And if you don't accept, the attorney proceeds with the criminal lawsuit right now." Richard took out some papers. "They are ready. Only your signature is missing, Mrs. Davis." Faith gritted her teeth. "I accept." They signed. every one of them. Brenda and Tom signed as witnesses. The notary sealed everything. "Done," Richard said. "This is legally binding. If you break any term, we will proceed." Robert approached me. He tried to take my hand. I pulled away. "Mom, please let me explain." "You have a year, Robert. A year to think about what kind of man you want to be, the one who allows his mother to be mistreated, or the one George and I tried to raise. Now leave, please." They left. Faith went out first, furious. Robert stopped at the door, looked at me one last time, and left too. When the door closed, I collapsed onto the sofa. Brenda hugged me. I cried. I cried as I hadn't cried in years. But these tears were different. They were tears of liberation. The following days were strange, quiet. There were no calls at 7:00 in the morning, no messages asking if I had thought about selling yet, no surprise visits with real estate agents, just silence. And that silence, which would have scared me before, now felt like a gift. On Tuesday afternoon, Brenda came over with pastries and coffee. "How are you doing, Mary?" "Better, much better. Did you check social media?" I shook my head. I barely used Facebook, and only to look at photos of my cousin's children. Brenda took out her phone. "Robert posted this yesterday." She showed me the screen. It was a long post, with a photo of Robert alone, without Faith. "I want to offer a public apology. A few weeks ago, my wife and I hosted a gathering where we announced that my mother had decided to sell her house to help us financially. That information was false. My mother never agreed to such a thing. We pressured her, manipulated her, and used her name without her permission. My mother is a woman of dignity who did not deserve that treatment. I publicly apologize for my behavior. I am ashamed of the person I became. I'm sorry, Mom." I read the words 3 times. There were 847 comments. Most were supportive of me. Some harshly criticized Robert. Others, Faith. "Did Faith post anything?" Brenda checked her profile. "Look." Faith's message was shorter, colder. "I offer my apologies for the confusion caused regarding my mother-in-law's situation. It was a misunderstanding. I regret any inconvenience caused." She didn't even take direct responsibility. It was a non-apology. "That woman is hopeless," Brenda said. I closed my eyes. A part of me wanted to feel satisfaction, but I only felt tired. "At least Robert complied," I said. "Yes, but did you see the comments? People are furious with them." I didn't want to read anymore. I closed Brenda's phone and gave it back to her. "It's been enough. I don't want to know anything more about them." On Thursday, Richard called me. "Mrs. Davis, I need to inform you of something. Faith tried to contact me. She wants to negotiate the terms." "What?" "She says a year of no contact is too much, that it's inhumane, that you're being cruel." I laughed. I couldn't help it. A bitter laugh. "Did you answer her?" "I told her the terms are non-negotiable, and that if she keeps insisting, we will proceed with the charges." She quieted down after that. "Thank you, attorney." "You're welcome. Oh, and one more thing. Your son is going to therapy. I checked with the therapist I recommended. He has attended 3 sessions already." That surprised me. Robert was complying. "And how is it going?" "I can't give you details due to confidentiality, but the therapist says he's working. Really working. That's a good sign, ma'am." When I hung up, I stayed there thinking. Was there hope for Robert, or was it too late? On Friday, I received a letter. It came in a white envelope with no return address. I opened it with trembling hands. It was from Robert, handwritten. "Mom, I know I can't call you or see you. I understand and respect that. But I need to write to you, even if you don't respond. I've been in therapy as I promised. The doctor made me see things I didn't want to see. He made me face the truth, that I became someone you didn't raise, someone weak, someone who allowed the person who made the most sacrifices for him to be mistreated. Faith and I are getting a divorce. It was my decision." When the therapist asked me what was more important, my marriage or my integrity, I couldn't answer. And then I understood that I had lost my integrity a long time ago. "I'm not writing to you for your forgiveness. I don't deserve your forgiveness yet. I'm writing so you know that I'm trying to be better, to be the son Dad would have wanted me to be, the son you deserve. I love you, Mom, and I regret having forgotten you while chasing things that didn't matter. Robert." Tears fell onto the paper, blurring some words. I read it 4 more times. Brenda was right. It hurt. It hurt terribly. But there was something else, too. A small bud of hope. Fragile, trembling, but it was there. I put the letter in the metal box next to George's letters. The months passed. September, October, November. I used some of the money George had saved to remodel the bathroom that had needed repair for years. I hired a young man from the neighborhood, Tony, Mrs. Lopez's son. He did an excellent job. I also started taking knitting classes at the community center. I met other women my age. We met on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We knitted, chatted, laughed. One of them, Martha, told me she had also had problems with her family. Her daughter had borrowed money and never paid it back. But I learned, she told me, that sometimes self-love is more important than family love, and that doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person. Her words stayed with me. In December, 2 weeks before Christmas, Richard called me. Mrs. Davis, the 1-year deadline is almost up. Have you thought about what you want to do next? What do you mean? Do you want to re-establish contact with your son? Do you want to give him another chance? I hadn't thought about it. I had been so busy rebuilding my life that I didn't think about the aftermath. I don't know, attorney. I still don't know. That's fine. You have time. But be prepared, because when the deadline ends in January, he will probably try to contact you. That night, I took out Robert's letter again. I had read it so many times that I knew every word by heart. What do I do, George? I asked the air. Do I give him another chance, or is it too late? There was no answer. Only the wind moving the curtains. The week before Christmas, Brenda invited me to her house for Christmas dinner. I don't want you to spend Christmas alone, Mary. I won't be alone. I'll be at peace. But I accepted the invitation anyway. At Brenda's dinner were her children, her grandchildren, her husband, some cousins. There were apple pie, eggnog, music. It was warm. It was family. Brenda's youngest nephew, a boy about 6 years old, approached me. Are you Mrs. Davis? Yes, sweetie. My aunt says you are very brave. Is that true? I knelt down to his height. And what do you think? I think so, because my mom says brave people are the ones who do the right thing even when it hurts. I hugged him. That boy knew more about life than many adults. That night, walking back home, I walked slowly through the streets decorated with Christmas lights. I saw families having dinner through the windows. I heard carols. I saw children running with sparklers. And for the first time in months, I thought of little Robert, about when he was 6 and helped me set up the Christmas tree, about how excited he got with Santa Claus, about how he hugged me before bed. Where had that boy gone? When I got to my house, I found something at the door, a box, not very big, with a red bow. It had no card, it had no name. I brought it inside. I opened it carefully. Inside was a photo album, old photos I hadn't seen in years. Robert as a baby, Robert at his elementary school graduation, Robert graduating from high school, Robert and I in Miami, and on the last page, a recent photo. Robert at the therapist's office. He looked tired, drawn, but there was something different in his eyes. There was a note attached. Mom, I found these photos at my place. I realized I had forgotten who we were, who you were, who I was. The therapist says remembering is part of healing, so I'm remembering. Every day. Merry Christmas. With love, the person I'm trying to be again. Robert. I closed the album. I hugged it against my chest. And in the solitude of my living room, with only the light from the Christmas tree I had put up that morning, I did something I didn't expect to do. I forgave. Not completely, not yet, but a little bit. Enough to think that maybe, just maybe, the circus had closed, but the story hadn't ended. January arrived with cool air and clear skies. The 15th of January marked exactly 1 year since that call where Faith canceled my birthday, calling it a circus. 1 year since everything began to fall apart, and the deadline I had imposed was also up. A year of no contact. I woke up early that day. I made my coffee as always. But there was something different in the air, a feeling that something was about to change. At 10:00 in the morning, the doorbell rang. My heart raced. I knew who it was. I opened the door slowly. It was Robert, but not the Robert I had seen a year ago. This man looked different, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes. But his eyes had something I hadn't seen in a long time, clarity. "Mom," he said with a trembling voice, "I completed the year. I completed everything. Can I come in?" I stepped aside without saying anything. He walked in as if stepping onto sacred ground. He looked at the living room, the furniture, the photos, everything as if seeing it for the first time. "The house looks beautiful, Mom. You remodeled the bathroom, and you painted the kitchen. It shows. Everything looks alive." We sat down, he on the sofa, I in the rocking chair, maintaining distance. "Mom, I've rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my head, what I would say to you, how I would say it. But now that I'm here, the words feel insufficient." I didn't answer. I just waited. "I broke up with Faith. We got divorced 4 months ago. She never agreed to go to therapy. I kept going. I've been in therapy for a full year, Mom, 2 sessions a week." "I know. Richard kept me informed." "You knew?" "Yes. He checked that you were complying." Robert nodded. "The therapist helped me see a lot of things. He helped me understand that I was so afraid of being alone after Dad died that when I found Faith, I clung to her. And in that clinging, I lost something more important. I lost you." Tears began to roll down his cheeks. He didn't wipe them away. "He helped me see that I treated you as an asset and not as a person, that I agreed to have you humiliated because it was convenient for me, that I used your unconditional love as a weapon against you, and that I said unforgivable things to you. I never asked you to raise me." I repeated his words. "That was what hurt the most, Robert." "I know, and it's what I'm most ashamed of, because every time I look at the photos I gave you for Christmas, I see your sacrifice in every image. I see you working, tired, but always smiling at me, and I understand that every day of my life was possible because of your decision to love me." He broke down. He cried as I hadn't seen him cry since he was a child. "Forgive me, Mom. Please. I don't expect you to forgive me now, or tomorrow, or soon. But give me the opportunity to show you that I can be better, that I can be the son Dad wanted me to be." I got up from the rocking chair. I walked toward him. I sat next to him. "Robert, I'm going to tell you something you need to hear. I'm not going to lie and say everything is fine, because it's not. You hurt me deeply. You allowed me to be humiliated. You made me feel like my whole life was worthless." He sobbed harder. "But I'm also going to tell you something else. You are my son, and even though you hurt me, even though you broke my heart, I am still your mother, and mothers don't abandon, even if their children abandon them." I hugged him, and in that hug there was pain, but there was something else too. There was a possible future. "This doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was," I told him, "because the way it was before was broken. We have to build something new, something healthier. Whatever it takes, Mom, whatever you need. You're going to keep going to therapy. I already have an appointment for the day after tomorrow. You're going to respect my boundaries. If I tell you no to something, it's no, without pressure, without manipulation. I promise you. And we're going to take things slowly, very slowly. 1 visit a week, 1 call every 3 days, nothing more, until I learn to trust again." "I accept everything, Mom." We stayed in silence for a moment, a different silence, not tense, peaceful. "Are you hungry?" I asked him. He smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Always." "I'll make something, but you're going to help me in the kitchen, like when you were a boy." We cooked together for the first time in years. I prepared grilled cheese sandwiches with the cheddar Brenda had brought me from the market. Robert chopped the tomatoes awkwardly, as if he had forgotten how to do it. "Remember when I taught you how to do this?" I asked him. "I was about 7, and I cut my finger. You cried as if your hand had been amputated." We laughed. A timid, careful laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. We ate at the dining room table, the same table where he did his homework for years, the same table where the 3 of us used to have dinner when George was alive. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Tell me." Why didn't you report me? You had all the evidence. You could have sent me to jail. Why didn't you do it?" I took a deep breath. "Because you are my son, and because I wanted you to learn, not to be destroyed. Jail would have made you a victim. This made you responsible. There's a difference." Robert looked down. "I don't deserve your mercy." "No one deserves mercy. That's why it's called mercy." He stayed until 3:00 in the afternoon. We talked about many things: his job, his divorce, his therapy, his future plans. When he left, he hugged me at the door. "Thank you for giving me another chance, Mom." "Don't waste it, son." "I won't. I swear on Dad." I watched him walk toward his car. Before getting in, he turned around and waved at me. I waved back. I closed the door. I leaned against it. Tears fell, but they weren't of sadness. They were of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The months continued. Robert kept his word. He came every Saturday for lunch. He called me on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He never asked me for money. He never pressured me for anything. In March, he gave me a new rose bush for the yard, a yellow one. "To replace the one that died last year," he said. We planted it together, digging the earth as I had done with George so many years ago. In April, for my 71st birthday, Robert hosted a dinner. Small, just the two of us. Brenda, Tom, Richard, Diane, and Mrs. Lopez. There were no grand speeches. There was no drama. Just family. The real family. Robert gave me something simple. A picture frame with a new photo. The two of us in the yard, planting the yellow rose bush. "For new memories," he said. That night, when everyone had left, I sat in the yard. The stars were shining. The yellow rose bush already had its first sprouts. I thought about the whole journey. The pain, the betrayal, the justice, the forgiveness. I thought about Faith. I knew from Brenda that she had moved to another state, that her mother had sold some properties to pay off her debts, that she still blamed me for her divorce. I didn't feel satisfaction at her downfall, but I didn't feel pity either. Some people choose to learn, others choose to blame. I thought about Robert, about the man he was trying to be. He wasn't perfect. He still had difficult moments, but he was trying, and that was enough for now. And I thought about me, about the Mary who almost sold her house to please others, about the Mary who almost let herself be crushed, and about the Mary who learned to say no. I took out George's last letter, the one that said, "You are a lioness, not a pet." "I did it, my love," I whispered to the wind. I defended myself, I roared, and I survived. The wind rustled the leaves of the yellow rose bush, and in that moment, I felt peace, because I had learned the most important lesson of all. True wealth is not in what you possess. It is in what you do not allow others to take from you. Your dignity, your peace, your self-love. No one can steal that from you, unless you hand it over. And I would never hand it over again. The circus had closed, but I finally had learned to live. Banaz, if this story touched your heart, if you have ever felt pressured by your family, if you have had to choose between pleasing others or respecting yourself, leave me a comment. Tell me where you are watching from, and if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video. Like it if you believe that self-love is not selfishness, but survival. And subscribe to keep hearing stories of women who stood up when the world tried to make them kneel. Because your life is not a circus, it is a masterpiece, and you are the artist. Until the next story, my dear lionesses, never forget to roar.